All right, so we're going to get started. People will join as they figure out how to use the Eventbrite, Zoom link, which is not as easy as the normal thing that we do. I'm going to share my screen with everybody so you can follow along with some slides that I prepared for today. And what we're going to talk about for the next hour and 20 minutes or so, so sit back, relax, and pay attention, of course, is we're going to talk about innovative multi-generational real estate investment business models. And that's a long way of putting things. The simplest version of it is we're going to look at some ways to prepare for retirement, whether you're 30 years of age or 50 years of age or 69 like me. This is the kind of stuff. It's a very simple model, but you'll see how I'll take a simple model and I'll build on it, and hopefully it will spark something in you that you can do. Most of you know me, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm a real estate investment and business coach. I'm the founder of the Ottawa Senators, hence my hat. I'm also a real estate broker with Royal LePage Performance Realty, so I'm armed and dangerous. And here's my 140 character CV. Bruce is an entrepreneur, real estate broker, developer, and coach, urban guru, keynote speaker, Sens founder, novelist, blogger, peerless husband, and dad. You can tell my wife didn't write that, I did. And today I'm joined by my good friend, Steve Foster. Wave hi, Steve.
Hey, everybody.
There he is. And like me, he's an engineer, mechanical engineer, but engineers end up all over the place. So he's both a technologist and he's also a marketing guru. I really mean that. He built my website for nothing, which has been really helpful to me in my coaching practice, in my real estate practice. And he does much more than that. And he calls it marketing plus tech plus people equals marketing. I better get this right, technopologist.
Yes, and like you correctly reached out and said, there's a lot, it seems like it's like apologist. And so for tech, sometimes there seems to be a lot of apologies because tech's great when it works well, but not so great. Absolutely. So I help people fix that.
Yeah, and so he runs a company called 628 Media, and he's really good at it. And I'm very grateful to him for all the work he's done with me for many years now. And I'm going to tell you guys why I'm here. I won't take too much time to do this. And no comments about how young I look in this picture and how old I am now. I was in my 30s when this picture is taken, and I'm almost 70 now, so there you go. But as the founder of the Ottawa Senators, it was a great moment for me, and I think for the city of Ottawa, to get an NHL team. The Ottawa Senators played in the NHL up until about 1933, and it was a Great Depression back then, and they moved to St. Louis, played there for 1 year, and then failed. So back in the early 90s, we applied to bring the Senators back. And so there's a picture of me here with Frank Finnegan, number 8. His number is retired at the Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa. He played on the last Stanley Cup winner in Ottawa. Ottawa won the Stanley Cup the last time the Senators won was 1927. So when they say the Maple Leafs have waited a long time, the fans have waited a long time for a Stanley Cup in Toronto, since 1967. How about the Ottawa fans? 1927. So there you go. And it was a very small group of young people. And again, this is me in the middle, surrounded by my co-founders, Cyril Leader, Randy Sexton, and a very small but very dedicated, very passionate group of people. So you don't need a huge number of people to change the world, or at least to change your world or your city or your town. They won 9 Stanley Cups. I'm proud of that. I have a ring that shows 9 Stanley Cups. And there was a lot of jubilation when the Sens came back. This picture on the right-hand side of my screen that you can see here, again, there's me as a young man with John Ziegler, who's no longer with us. He was president of the NHL, and there's Phil Esposito. So Phil Esposito was representing the Tampa Bay Lightning, which came in at the same time as the Senators, and there I am as well. Here's another picture of me with John, and I cut Phil out of this one. So Phil's on the right-hand side, but you can't see him in this picture. This isn't a very good image, but this was our first year team. We played after, I think, almost 60 some years. They finally got back into the National League, and this was our first year team. We did not win many games. And this is me in the middle with my executive team and of course, the hockey players. This is the arena that we built in Ottawa. It's about 20,000 seats in the west end of Ottawa. And I still get heck from a lot of people for putting it in the west end instead of downtown. But that's a long story. I'm not going to go into that today. But here's what happened after we got a National Hockey League team, an expansion franchise from the NHL. Phil Esposito, about 3 weeks after the Tampa Bay Lightning were granted a conditional franchise and the Ottawa Senators were granted a conditional franchise, Phil calls me up and says to me, hey, Bruce, I got a call from the governor, the governor of the state of Florida, congratulating us on bringing NHL hockey to Florida. And it was really exciting. How was your reception in Ontario? And I said, our reception was a little bit different. We got a lawsuit from our government. You guys, maybe some of you are too young to remember, but Bob Rae was premier back then. And he and his government really wanted to see the franchise go to Hamilton, where they had a lot of political strength and not Ottawa. So there was a tremendous amount of litigation involved. And I was on the witness stand, believe it or not, for 3.5 grueling days. But eventually we won the hearing and we were able to build our building. However, we only got, out of the 600 acres that I had bought, we only got 100 acres approved for development. So what that meant was the other 500 acres, which I was hoping to sell off, at a profit to help pay for the franchise, which back then was $50 million US. Today, it's more like 600 million. So that was, we had to take about an $80 million write down. And then the Canadian dollar went from about 90 cents to about 62 or 63 cents. And our salaries were in US dollars. So our salary bill went from around $6.5 million in year one to 85 million. And then the Sens went bankrupt. And you can see that here. There's a little cartoon back in the day. The Ottawa Senators went bankrupt in the mid-2000s. And so there I was at age 54 with 5 kids and a spouse and a mother-in-law and no money. When I say no money, I mean negative money. I owed people money, right? So, what do you do then? And what I tell people to do when bad things happen, and it could happen to you, could happen to me, it did happen to me, is you can do a few things. You can, feel sorry for yourself. You can be mad at the world. There's a lot of things you could do, but after 2 or 3 days, what I tell people is you've got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back to work. And that's what I did. This is a picture of me actually teaching in Sweden. I went to Stockholm to teach at the Hyper Island Institute. And I think I had like 5 jobs, I had no money. And I wasn't young, 54 is not really young. And so I taught architecture, I taught business, I taught engineering, I taught digital data strategy. Steve, you can't believe that, but I did. I taught digital data strategy. I went back to school. I have a PhD in urban economics from the Australian National University in Canberra, but I went back to school and to become a real estate broker so I could earn a little bit more money. So I've never actually counted how many jobs I had all at the same time. And I worked every day except Christmas Day for 13 years. And it was a bit of a grind, I have to tell you. And I bought my first real estate property, I think the year after the Sens went bankrupt. I bought a townhouse. And for those of you who've been following what I teach and what I write, you'll know that I like to buy things that maybe nobody else wants. And I like to buy things that are under fair market value, if that's possible. And so I often look, and in fact, almost always look for DOM, days on market. So if I'm going to buy something, I'm looking for something that has been on the market for some time. I'm not interested in getting advance notice of listings or private sales. I'm not. I look for things that no one else wants to buy. And so there was this townhouse. They were asking, I think, $390,000 for it, something like that. And it had been on the market for like over 300 days. And I wondered, what the heck? And when I went to see it, I realized why. It was owned by a hoarder. And I had never been in a house where a hoarder lived. And, the smell was incredible. And it was just really in a disgraceful condition. So I offered I think it was $250,000 $40,000 I offered for this place. And I met with the owner, an older lady, her name was Joan, I think. And I said, you should sell it to me. And her realtor was really mad for me making such a low offer. But I said, the reason, Joan, you want to get on with your life and you want to sell this. It's been for sale for almost a year. And you should sell it to me because I've fallen on hard times and I can't afford it anymore. And for another reason, you just hand me the keys. You can leave all of your precious stuff here. You don't have to clean anything out or change anything or do anything. Just hand me the keys and walk away. And so the realtor said, you've got to do better, Mr. Firestone. This offer is atrocious. So I went up $1,250. So I eventually ended up with that townhouse for $241,250. And most of the townhouses around there were at that time were selling for around $400,000. And so, by actually being present and presenting my own offer and giving at least a couple of reasons why she might want to sell it to me, I was able to convince them to do it. And that really helped me. It really helped me a lot to buy my first property, well, not my first property, but my first property after the Senators went broke. So I had to kind of not only talk the talk as a coach, a lot of coaches talk the talk, but I have to walk the talk as well and be the example. And I think I have been for the last 15 years. So now I own townhouses, sort of one condo, some mixed use buildings you can see on the top right here, some triplexes, what else? Some more, this is kind of a legacy project over here at the top right, a barn, some houses. I think this one is a triplex here, down here. This one is, again, another mixed use building. So I was able to rebuild, but it didn't start off, at 1,000 feet altitude. It started off by crawling again at 54, and then walking, and then learning how to run, and then eventually how to fly. I don't think I'll ever get back in the rocket ship to go to where I was before, but it's certainly an improvement. So the portfolio has probably reached about 8 figures now, which is less than it was before the Sens went bankrupt, when it might have been 9 figures, but still it's not zero. And as I said, I worked pretty hard to get there. So that's a little bit of my history. Something else I wanted to show you, I got zero help, zero, from Canadian chartered banks. If I went to a Canadian, my credit score right now is 890, which is a pretty good score. But if I went to a Canadian bank and said, could you give me a mortgage? There's not a chance in the world. They look at my balance sheet and they go, what the heck? You got properties here, there, and everywhere, and you're doing this stuff and that stuff, and you're a coach, you're a realtor. What the heck are you? And I would say I'm an entrepreneur. But they don't really like entrepreneurs. So all of my loans, I think every one of them, well, almost every one of them, are with secondary, even tertiary lenders. And something else. Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt, but I mean, this story always amazes me that, you went from broke and further down than broke, owing people money, no help, amazing credit score, still can't get help. So I'm just curious, like, of the people that are here on the call today, I mean, if you've ever used Zoom and chat, you can just open up your chat window and just type in if anyone can relate, like, can I get a, hell yes, I feel it. You're trying to put these things together. You're here for a reason, obviously, to learn some of these things. Anyone else feeling this? Anyone else feeling the lack of help out there and trying to figure this out?
Oh, definitely. Somebody says yes.
Definitely, yes. Incredible story for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome, Peter, Gregory, Carol. Thank you guys. Thank you for. We want to know you're here, so that's awesome. And
awesome.
I've always get excited by this story, and it's always a great preface that anyone can start from wherever you're at, with the right help, with the right advice, and the right strategy. So, with that, thanks everyone for chiming in. That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. That was a great question. So, Steve, just to correct one thing, I didn't have a credit score of 890 back then. When one of your businesses,
even better, because it shows that you can rebuild it.
I would be embarrassed to tell people it was 560. Which is not good. But I mean, you have to rebuild your credit score. You have to rebuild your financial life, and that's what I did. So as I was saying to Steve and the group here today, all of the loans, or almost all of them, are with secondary, even tertiary lenders. And I was going to say that for real estate entrepreneurs, and actually I think all entrepreneurs, I see private funds here. Exactly. The availability of money is actually more important than the percentage that, some people say, I want to borrow at 2%. Well, if you have a great government job and your spouse has a great government job and you have a house with a low loan to value, and that's pretty much it, or maybe you have a cottage, yes, you could go to the bank in Nova Scotia and get a mortgage at 1.7% or 2%. But if you're trying to do what I think most of the people on this call are trying to do, you might end up, as I have, with secondary and even tertiary lenders that charge you 3 or 3.5, 4.5%. But if you're doing what I do, which is you try and buy low, and you try and buy property that you can animate, which means add more revenues to, then borrowing at 3.5 or 4.5% doesn't bother you. And some of the buildings that I've been buying, I've been using close to 100% loan to value financing, simply because we've been putting our RSP second mortgages on them. And with our RSP second mortgage, you go almost to 100%, I think. And those are not cheap. They're 8 or 10%. Sometimes they're even 12%. People think, oh, that's crazy. But it's not crazy if you animate them, add some revenues, drive the value up, refinance it, pay out all that high cost financing, and put something in place that's 3.5, 4.5%. And if you're making cap rates of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12%, whatever it might be, that's okay. But that's my view. And as a coach, I can only tell you what I would do, but I can't advise you to do that, because you have to be comfortable with that kind of advice. But if you think you can go to the Royal Bank, CIBC, National Bank, Bank of Nova Scotia, TD, and get the kind of financing that you need to be a real estate entrepreneur, then you are in a category of one, in my experience. Because what they'll do is they're very nice. They'll say, sure, come on in. And then they'll give you a huge number of questions to answer, which will take you months, and then they'll decline. So instead, I have 2 or 3 really good mortgage brokers I use. They put it out to 10, 12, 20 lenders. I get offers of finance from 2, 3, sometimes 4 or 5. I pick one. It's usually a process that takes 10 or 15 business days. So I think the availability of finance is probably more important than the actual rate, as long as you know what you're doing. All right, so I used to say the 3 quickest ways to get poor: get divorced, buy a horse ranch, and buy a National Hockey League team. And there's a joke that goes around the Board of Governors at the NHL that the second happiest day in your life, in your business life, is when you become an NHL owner, and the happiest day is the day you sell it. And I don't know what the NHL teams lost during COVID, but like most sports leagues, I think they lost quite a bit of money. And losing money, I can tell you from experience, is not fun. So I would strongly advise, if you don't remember anything else from today, that don't buy properties that don't cash flow. Don't. And by the way, I added a fourth, for the people on the call who are developers, I added a fourth way to get poor, which is to become a land developer. And that's in jest, because I was a land developer. I still do some land development, and I do coach land developers, but you have to be very, very cautious in land development. It's very capital intensive and extremely risky. The planning process, I'm sure everybody on this call has at least one story to tell, is arduous and lengthy and costly. So it's in there. It's that fourth I added in jest, but only kind of partly. The other thing that I found out after the sense went broke, my wife was, you can imagine my wife and kids, my mother-in-law, we had a nice lifestyle, the big house and all the trimmings, and then all of a sudden we didn't have anything. We were living in, I think, 3 or 4 different apartments. My kids all over. I had to pay, I think, 4 apartments or something like that. And my wife said, look, Bruce, your plan did not work very well, your financial plan. So could you please go and talk to people who actually do financial planning? So I did. I talked to the so-called 3 top financial planners in my city. And I have to tell you, with all due respect, I thought their advice was absolutely terrible. And maybe we could borrow something from Steve. If you agree with that statement, just put yes in the chat box. And if you don't, put no. I'd like to see that. But my experience anyway with the financial planning industry was terrible. One of them, I remember, wanted to sell me a life insurance policy that would cost $10,000 a month. $10,000 a month. He told me all kinds of stories about this. It was more than I was earning at the time. And what he didn't disclose to me was that he would get an $80,000 upfront commission if I was stupid enough to sign it. So I went back to my wife, Dawn McMillan, and I said, Dawn, I don't think they can really help us. She said, well, what are we going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to invent my own plan, but it's got to be different than the previous plan, which didn't work. And so I have a plan I call NEWPIN. It stands for New Era Financial Plan. I just made that term up, NEWPIN. And it starts with real estate. You know, if all of us were to get together and, I don't know, start a tech company for $500,000 and it's not successful, we probably won't get much money back, maybe $5,000 or $10,000 for the intellectual property. But probably not much more than that. And if it's successful, hell, we could be Google, but mostly not, I think. But if we bought a $500,000 bungalow and we didn't get along and we wanted to sell, we'd probably get our money back and maybe a little bit more. So real estate seems to be a little lower risk. And I talked to my wife and I said, maybe we should rebuild our real estate portfolio. And you should have some cash. My dad used to call it an arm reserve. You should have a personal business for life. And mine is coaching. I really like coaching. I'm pretty good at it. And that's my PB for basically personal business for life. You might have some insurance. I needed to take out term insurance, which is just for a period of time, just in case I got run over by a bus and owed people all kinds of money. And it's pretty cheap if you're not a smoker and you're good health. And back then I was, still am, thank God, in good health. But it's not very expensive to buy $1 million in term insurance if you're a non-smoker, especially if you're a female. But even for men, it's not too bad. You can have an independent pension plan. And I really believe in keeping things simple. When the Sens collapsed, I probably had 20 or 25 different companies. And today I have one. So I have to do one financial statement, one income tax return, and that's it. Now, a lot of people would argue that you should have a numbered company for each property you own and all the rest of that, or you shouldn't have it in your own personal name. I believe simplicity is the way to go. That's just my personal belief. You have to make your own mind up. And then you have to find ways to pass on your properties and your whatever you might have to your heirs efficiently and effectively. I've got some strategies to do that. And then I think you should give back to your community. And I try and do that too. So those are the 8 pillars. So what I was really looking for is a way to go forward, especially at age 54. If I was 34, I might have taken a few more risks, but I wanted something with a lower risk profile and a higher return on investment. So when I started into coaching, what I wanted to focus on, what I needed to focus on was how to animate property, how to add new revenues, okay? Because there's a lot of people out there who can tell you how to trim your cost, you know, how you can go from 4 gas meters to 3 and save $75 a month in connection fees. That's very important, but I didn't think I could add much on the cost side of our business. But I didn't think people were doing much on the revenue side. So I decided 8 years ago when I got into this coaching thing full time, I decided to focus on the revenue side of the business, which I call animation. And I'm going to tell you a story. Everybody likes stories. This is one of my clients. He's a young man. He's a tech guy, by the way. But he really likes real estate. And is he ever smart? His name is Ali. You can see a picture of him right here. He's quite young in this picture. So anyway, this is Ali. And, you know, he and his beautiful wife have bought a bungalow. So they said, oh, this is great. I bought a bungalow. What do I do with it? I said, animate. And not the Frankenstein animation, you know, put the electrodes here and the electricity there, but animate. And he said, well, how do I do that? So I talked to him about what a lot of clients do. This is a very simple model, but it's going to get a little bit more complicated. So if you stay with us until a little after 1, you'll get the picture. And you might learn some things, even if you're a land developer or an infill developer, you might learn a few things here in the next few minutes. So I said, why don't you add a basement apartment? Does this bungalow have its own entrance to the basement? Oh, yes, it does. And I said, oh, that's great. So you could add a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. And Ali and his wife, Oksana, did a little bit of research, and it would cost them about $85,000 to put a basement apartment in. It might be 2 or 3 bedrooms. And they felt they could rent it just under $2,000 a month in their city. And the net operating income from that would be around $15,483 a month. Now, net operating income means that's you take the gross income and you subtract, your property taxes, your insurance, your repairs and maintenance, your property management costs, all of that, your vacancy allowance. You just subtract that. Nothing. This has nothing to do with financing. Okay, so you're left. It's as if you paid cash for it. Okay, so your net operating income from your $85,000 investment might be around $15,000. So your cap rate or capitalization rate is very easy to calculate, and it's a very important number. And I know most of you know this stuff, so bear with me. It'll get more interesting. So your cap rate is simply your net operating income after you pay those expenses, but nothing to do with your mortgage. It says if you paid cash for this renovation, is 18.2%. So, skill testing question. You could invest your money or leave your $85,000 in your bank. I think I put an ad on this slide. Yes, I did. Is this Ally Bank? Yeah, Ally Bank is now offering 1.7%. So I put a skill testing question here in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. What's better, 18.2% from your 85 grand or 1.7%? Now, if you answer 1.7%, I'm going to ask you to do remedial math, okay? And I got to tell you, this is for the infill builders and the developers on the call today, because I know we have a few here. Maybe I can't do anything else, but I can talk. And I have lots of big clients. I have former students of mine who are starting with their first investment property, and I've got a couple of billionaire clients, but I have quite a few builders of various scales, people who build 8, 10, 12 homes a year, some who build 3 or 4 or 500, maybe a bit more too. And I've been trying for like 13 or 14 years to get the home builders to add, a basement apartment. For example, one of my daughters, Miriam, she bought a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, half double, which had a walkout basement. She put I think a 1-bedroom apartment in her basement for $800. So she and her baby and her husband can live in their own home. And this is not net operating income after paying everything, internet and utilities and property taxes, everything, and mortgage for about $700 a month because of the income coming from the basement apartment. So I've been telling home builders and infill developers, look, why don't you at least offer it as an option? And I'm a good talker, and I've been at it for 14 years, and they all turned me down until finally I convinced one, and one builder now is doing it. They call it their income series homes, and it's been very successful. And I just wanted to point out to the developers and home builders here that a typical home builder does not have a very high margin. Their margins are about 13% on the homes they build. And then when they sell you an upgrade, nicer kitchen cabinets, nicer countertops, nicer electrical fixtures. Every time they sell you an upgrade, it's about a 40% margin. So that's pretty important to them. But for this group that is doing income series, they found that they could put these apartments in the basement of their homes, in their income series homes, for about $45,000 to $55,000 and upsell them for about $120,000, right? So that's about 100%, or maybe even a little bit more than 100% margin. So that's pretty good, and it's important. And like for my daughter Miriam, and I'm sure many others, including me, these extra animations are very important. So I wanted to explain what a cap rate is one more time, okay? I know everybody probably knows this, so I'll do it quick. Let's assume that $85,000 that you invested in that basement apartment, you found it in your couch, right? So you sit down tonight and you go, oh my God, what's this? You have 85,000. So you could put that in the bank and get 1.7%, or you could put that in the basement renovation and get 15,000, right? That's the difference. So cap rate is very, very, very important. And there's a lot more implications to it, but if I went into all of it today, you'd hate me because we'd be here at 6 p.m. tonight. But Ali is, I told you, a very smart person, in fact, way smarter than his professor. And he said, Bruce, tell me more about this micro suite thing that you're so hung up on. For those, again, who've been following me, I love micro suites. So this is a picture of a micro suite up here in the top right-hand corner. Micro suite is simply, basically back in the day, you call them studio apartments, right? You come in, you've got a place to sleep, a bathroom, a small kitchen, it functions. my wife and I, when we were young, we had a kitchen that wasn't much different than that. We had a toaster oven, and she could cook a nice turkey for Thanksgiving in a toaster oven. She's a miracle worker. And a little entertainment area, study area, work area, and hopefully some access to the outdoors, because at least in the northern states and in Canada, you're kind of shut up for 6 months a year. So these micro suites are really hot. And they tend to be, I don't know, about 300 square feet in size. And one of the reasons they're super hot, even before the pandemic whacked the planet, is that roommates are always arguing. I come home and I say, Steve, it's your turn to clean the bathroom. He says, oh, no, I cleaned it last week. It's your turn, Bruce. And then he comes home and says, who drank the last of the beer? And I look guilty, So roommates are always arguing. So when you have your own micro suite, you're not going to argue. You know who has to clean the bathroom, who has to clean the kitchen, etc. All right. And the other thing about micro suites is they don't have to be now just for residential use. A lot of cities are loosening up and legalizing everywhere home-based business. So you could run your coaching practice out of this thing, or your registered massage therapy practice, or your physiotherapy practice. Or one of my clients runs a neighborhood bakery. She loves to bake chocolate croissants, and are they ever good? And neighbors from all over the place walk there and every morning and get a nice coffee. And micro retail is now legal in many parts of many cities. You have to check the zoning bylaw, but they are. So it doesn't have to be residential. And I just had to put this in here for you guys. UBC are building micro suites that are so small, they don't call them micro suites, they call them nano suites. Nano's very, very tiny. And you can sort of see it here. So you walk in here, you've got a closet here, you've got a kitchenette, it does work. You've got open space for storage, you've got a desk, and you've got a full bathroom. And the desk folds into a bed, the bed folds into a desk. 140 square feet. Now, I would not recommend building 140 square foot, nano suites. The smallest one that I built is 198 square feet, so just under 200 square feet. I don't think I'd go much below that, but some people have, and UBC did, and it was very successful. So they're hot, 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 and not just with young people. Young people like it. Steve tells me every time I write a blog post where I say, I use the word tiny, I get double my readership. So whether it's tiny home or tiny anything. So people are really interested, and not just young people, but older people too. Smaller eco footprint, pandemic resistant because you're on your own, no roommates. And you'll find if you have these micro suites instead of a shared apartment, people will stay longer. And if your tenants stay longer, that's a really big change in your profitability. Because if you're having to replace, if you have 300 units and you have to replace your tenants every year, that's a lot of work. So if they stay 2 years or 4 years or 5 years, some of our tenants have been 6, 7 years, it's really important. And maybe you don't know the slogan, but I really like it. The tiny house movement, I think the slogan is less house, more life. And I think that's a really great statement. So it's quite popular. So what Ali did after we went through all this is his basement looked completely different than what I expected. He didn't tell me he was doing this. He just surprised me with it. So you might not be able to. Steve, can you see this okay on your screen?
Yeah, I can see it fairly well. There's a lot of detail going on there, but I can see it.
Okay, so I mean, what he did, just to summarize it in its briefest, in the briefest possible way, is he, instead of putting a 3-bedroom apartment down there in his basement, he built 3 independent micro suites. Illegal micro suites. He got a building permit for it. So you come down the stairs here. If you turn right, there's a stacked washer and dryer, which is common, right? So everybody can use it. If you turn left, you go in here. Can you see my cursor moving around, Steve?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay. So you turn right, there's the stacked washer dryer. You turn left, he's got a full kitchen here, stove, oven, everything, dining room, and that's again a common area. But if you go in here, you've got the micro suite. So you got the sleeping area, you've got a place to eat. It's kind of, I forgot what that's called, but you guys know what that is anyway. You pull up a stool and you can work there, and you can eat there, you can watch TV there. He's got a little micro kitchen in there, and their own bathroom. That's kind of cool. And then there's another one over here, same kind of deal. sitting area, work area, an eating area, sitting area. I guess that's the work area there, a little micro kitchen and their own bathroom. And he's got a third one over here. So I asked Ali, why the heck does he have 4 kitchens in the basement instead of 3? And he said he needed the 4th kitchen, which is in the common area here, to satisfy the building code, right? So he could get his building permit. So I said, or he said, I think it was his idea, not mine. He said the next time he does it, and he'll do more of these, he's going to put the full kitchen in one of the micro suites to satisfy the building code, and then use this common area for entertainment. So you put a little mini ping pong table in there, some other fun stuff. Because I have a theory that couples who play together stay together, families that play together stay together, and even tenants who may not know each other who play together tend to stay together. And again, reducing your tenant churn is great. But look what happened to his cap rate. He was able to rent each one of his micro suites for $9.95 per month, which is really great, plus $50 for parking and $85 for tech packages, you know, internet, etc. So instead of getting just under $2,000, he got $3,390 a month from his basement. That is really amazing. So it gave him a cap rate on this investment. Now, it did cost him more because he had that extra kitchen, or all those extra kitchens. So instead of being $85,000, it was $100,000 renovation. So it was more expensive, but his cap rate went way up. So again, there's the skill testing question over here. You know, what's better, the 18.2% that he would have gotten if he'd followed my advice, put a basement apartment in, or the 26.8% that he did in fact get? So it's pretty amazing, Bruce, what he did. Yeah.
Just a quick question from Jake. What cities did Ali do this in?
This was in Ottawa. But just so you know, Jake, I have clients doing it in Rockland, which is a small town in Eastern Ontario, in Long Beach, California, in Scottsdale, Arizona, in BC. I mean, a lot of different places. It works everywhere. And in fact, I have one client in Shanghai who specializes in micro suites as well. So it's been very successful. And I think it would work just as well in Sweden as it would in Canada or the United States. I mean, Sweden has a real problem with affordable housing, even worse than Canada. And you know, I love tech packages, and I equip all of our apartments, and a lot of my clients do as well, so that when you come in as a tenant, everything works the moment you come in. I mean, I don't know how many hours you have to spend with Rogers or TELUS or Verizon or AT&T or any of these providers trying to get all this stuff in and working. It's not easy. So tech packages is a profit center for us, and it's also a competitive advantage. So I would strongly advise you guys to think about that too. It's a multimedia package, really.
Bruce, before you move on, is there specific zoning where this would be allowed or not allowed?
So Ottawa's very, I haven't been a big fan of the city of Ottawa's planning staff for a long time, but they have very good leadership now in Steve Willis. He's the top person there. And it is now legal in R1 zones. And I have to tell you also, R1, so that's residential first zone, and in many, many, many other cities and towns in Canada, the United States are doing the same thing. They want more affordable housing because people are screaming at them that they just can't get anything that's even close to affordable. So,
and they are trying to increase the density, right? Like
Exactly. Yeah. They're trying to increase the density. The city of Ottawa has been a leader in this, but they're not alone. I mean, you can do this now in LA. You just
Toronto.
Yes, Toronto's a little bit more difficult, but yes, you can do it in Toronto. But it's a little bit more complicated. But the province has stepped in, and you know, you're going to keep me here for another half hour, so I got to be careful, Steve, because you want to have talk too.
Yeah, well.
But hang on a second. The province of Ontario brought in Bill 108. And Bill 108 has legalized not only in-home apartments and what I've just described, but also, in addition, you can have a coach house in your backyard, separate little house in your backyard. So there's a lot of good stuff happening in the United States and in Canada, and I'm sure in other jurisdictions as well. Something else I really, really like is adding backyard workshops. Again, I won't have time today to go through all the details of it, but I put on a lot of my properties backyard workshops. They can be 800 square feet like this one, or they can be much smaller. I love that because I want you to think about it this way. If you rent to somebody, say for example, Maya, who has 3 kids, and she rents an apartment from you, that's a liability. As Robert Kiyosaki would say, it's a liability because every month you have to pay for it and there's no money coming in. But if you rented Maya, who's a yoga teacher, a backyard workshop where she could run her yoga practice, that's an asset. And I just put her example here. And my cap rate on this is 10.2%. So it's not outrageous like 18 or 20%, but still better than I would get from the bank, that's for sure. So you on these things, you know, the cap rates are good, but they're not you know, crazy good. Another thing that we're experimenting with, Steve, is we're putting backyard offices in, and you can buy these things as kits. You know, some of them, one of my clients in Kingston builds them for like, I think $11,000. This particular one's a little bit more expensive, $23,000. But again, you can make a decent cap rate because people, you know, if you have 5 kids, you might not want to work on the dining room table. You might say, hey, I'm going to my office, and you go in the backyard. But people have to rent those things. And the cap rate on this one was about 22 or 23%. That's pretty good.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and I love storage. And I buy Alma sheds. My wife once bought one of those metal sheds from, you know, a company called Lowe's, and it didn't last one Canadian winter. Just the snow just crushed it. These Alma sheds are wood frame with metal roofs. I've got some of these around that have lasted, you know, 30, 35 years. So that's a good life cycle for these things. I know I have one that's 35 years old. And I divided it into 2. You know, it's got doors on either end, and you can rent them to your tenants, and you can make it, again, a decent cap rate. Real estate is about making a little bit of money on a lot of different things. These are all animations, all right? So plus your tenants really enjoy it. Everybody has too much stuff. You know, they have the snowboard. Where are you going to put that? So there you go. The other thing I do a lot is I really like, you know, the playland thing. I call it playland. So putting a backyard bocce court in is not expensive. The middle one is cornhole, you know, the beanbag toss game. I got a mini ping pong table. It's a hoot. You can actually play on it, and you can play inside or outside, and it's portable. So there's a lot of things you can do that are very inexpensive. When tenants come along, they come, wow, this is great. You know, I can really see myself living here. So you can do some animation stuff that's not expensive. The other thing that a lot of my clients do, these are clients of mine in Portugal, a lot of them are developing their backyards as backyard homesteads where you can grow stuff. You know, people my age, people much younger than me, people older than me, everybody seems to like the idea. And then the pandemic hit, and then people really like the idea. So again, if you can, even if you just have a planter in the backyard where somebody can grow some tomatoes, there's a lot of joy in that. My wife is a real talent at that, and she grows everything, you know, and tomatoes and cucumbers and, you know, carrots and all the other things that we get from our garden taste a whole lot different than the stuff that you might get from a truck that's been on the road for 5 days. And you know, I talked a little bit about coach houses. I'm developing this this particularly poor-looking building on one of my projects. I'm developing this into a coach house, and it doesn't look like much, but it was a backyard garage with double brick, I think, built in the 1930s. And so when I bought this property fairly recently, I saw this, and this is not in Ottawa. This is in a small town, Belleville. So about 2 hours from Toronto. And I saw this building in the backyard of this house that I bought. And I said, I'm going to make that into a coach house, which is legal in Belleville. All right. So you'll see what I did. And the cap rate on this will be about 24, 25%. So that's pretty good. Now, you'll notice this really horrible sketch. It was done by me. And you got to remember, I'm an engineer, not an architect. So this is pretty much the best I could do. So when I talked to my architectural technologist, Dustin Poole, I said to him, you know, here's the existing garage. We're going to turn this garage part into sort of like the living room, dining room, kitchen area with its own door. This is going to be a bedroom with its door to the outside and the window. And then we're going to add an addition on here, which is going to be a micro suite. And he was all over it. And I've talked to the planners in the city of Belleville, and they really like it. They were very supportive. And here's the first iteration of the plan that Dustin did for me. He's an architectural technologist, young fellow, really good at what he does. And you can see this addition is going to be its own micro suite. You come in here, a bed here, full bathroom here, micro kitchen here. I don't know what else he's got here. I guess a closet. So that's going to be an independent unit. And then you've got another bedroom here, but again, with its own ensuite. And then you've got the full kitchen and living room, dining room here. Now, I want you guys to think about how I can use this. Belleville is on the edge of Prince Edward County, which is wine country in Ontario. So I could rent this out as a 1-bedroom Airbnb and a 1-studio apartment Airbnb. So I could put 2 Airbnb listings up, or I could rent it as a 2-bedroom Airbnb, or I could rent this out as a long-term rental and just put this on Airbnb. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that I could do. There's all kinds of other options there. And one of the things that I teach is every time you add an extra door to the outside, you see there's 3 doors here to the outside, you actually have made the house bigger without making it bigger. And farmers knew this 120 years ago, 150 years ago, because that's how they used to design farmhouses. I won't go into the reasons why, because I'm running out of time. But you can see that you can be quite creative. And if you can get a 20 or 25% cap rate, that makes a difference. Here's a friend of mine, a coaching client of mine, Ken and Natalie McKenzie. This is their house. And they wanted to find ways to make their house an asset. You know, Robert Kiyosaki, Mr. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he says, your house is a liability because it sucks money out of your jeans. Whereas if you own a townhouse that's a rental, hopefully that's an asset. So I really believe in making even your principal residence an asset. And I have here in my house, I have a micro suite downstairs. Unfortunately, it isn't much of an asset because my youngest son broke up with his girlfriend and he lives there rent-free. But well, hopefully one day he'll find another girlfriend and move out. And so even my principal residence is animated. So I went to see Ken and Natalie, and look at this porch here. When you go inside that, there's the glass wall that you saw from the outside. He has 2 living rooms. They have 2 living rooms. Here's one picture I took in this direction. Here's a picture I took in the other direction. And I said, holy smokes, if you guys just put a 8-foot piece of drywall here, put a bathroom in here and a wet bar or micro kitchen, you can have your own micro suite. And, you know, a cost of about $40,000, including furniture, net operating income of about $9,300. Again, a very good cap rate of 23.5%. And what I really liked about it is it had a door to the outside, so they didn't even have to put in, you know, a new entrance, and it even had its own little private area, that balcony I showed you earlier. So it's an ideal way, you know, to animate your own principal residence. Now we're almost finished my part, and I just wanted to share with you, you know, some financial numbers, and see if you could sort of, you know, follow along with me. So, you know, the bungalow was purchased for around $545,000. Then there's land transfer tax in Ontario. They call it a bienvenue tax in Quebec, and they've got taxes all over the place. Legals, title insurance, and other closing costs added another $2,100. Put a first mortgage in place of 80% loan to value. He did manage to get that, again, with a secondary lender, and an RRSP second mortgage for $81,000. And so the total mortgages were that, and he needed about $36,000, you know, to put in. And I wanted to clarify something for everybody, including myself. Robert Kiyosaki, many people think that Mr. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, who's very, very famous and brilliant guy, no doubt, is all about no money down real estate. I don't think that's actually accurate. If you look at read his books, and I think I've read all of them or most of them, what he talks about when he bought his first condo in Hawaii is he actually used his credit card for the down payment. That's not a no money down payment, because last time I checked, credit card companies want you to repay. So what he was talking about, I think, is if you buy something and you animate it somehow and drive the value up, and then you refinance it within a year or 2 or 3, and you take all your money out, whether it's $36,000 of equity or $136,000, that is a no money down deal. If you look at it from that perspective, right? That over, in most of my buildings, because I'm trying to buy low, I'm trying to animate, drive the value up, within a 3-year window, most of my buildings are no money down. In other words, I'm taking money out of those buildings successfully within 1, 2, or 3 years and doing more. I haven't found any other way to build wealth that's better than this. Now, maybe you think Bitcoin is better. I respect you if you are a crypto guy or man or woman, but that's not for me. All right, let's keep going. Now, when we first looked at this building with Ali and Oksana, the cap rate on it was terrible, 3.3%. If he just left it as a bungalow, rented it out, got whatever he could. And that fails the test. So I wouldn't have bought it. I only buy things with a going in cap rate of 6%. All right. So if you use the cap rate properly, instead of paying $545,000, he should have probably paid $303,000. Except nobody was going to sell him that bungalow in Ottawa for $303,000. So he overpaid, at least from my point of view. But I understand he wanted to make an investment. All right. Now, if he had added a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, his cap rate would have gone to 5.4%. So that's better. It's closer to my 6% minimum. And I don't care whether you're in LA or in Toronto or San Francisco, 6%. That's what I'm aiming for. But instead, he was smarter than me. He put those 3 micro suites in and he got his cap rate up to 6.8%, which is really good. And if he hasn't done this yet, but if he adds a workshop, he could probably get it to about 7.3%, which is very good. And if he adds a backyard office, about 7.8%. And the backyard storage shed doesn't change it very much. It goes from 7.8 to 7.9%. Still, it's up a little bit. Now, I wanted to share this with you guys. People often will tell me that I'm going to skip this slide because it's too difficult to explain. So I'm going to just go this because I got to tie it up here. I might actually be a couple minutes early, Steve. So people often tell me, oh, what's the difference? 3% or 7%, who really cares? But I just put this very, very simple calculation on here. If you invest $100,000 at 3.3% with a cap rate of 3.3%, in 15 years, you end up with $162,000. That's not horrible. But if you had a 7.9% cap rate on that $100,000, after 15 years, you'd end up with $311,000. That is a huge difference, almost double. And Albert Einstein said it better than I could ever say it. The most powerful force in the universe isn't nuclear fusion, it's compound interest. And so if you invest in properties that cash flow, right, as opposed to, you're flipping houses or something like that. And by the way, I don't really teach people how to flip houses. This is the way to do it, in my opinion. This will build wealth. I was going to do the cabin in the woods business model because everybody loves that model, but I'm not going to have time to do it today. I apologize to people. The cabin in the woods business model is, buy a cheap piece of dirt, dig a pond, which I do all the time. You create your own waterfront, add some glamping or a bunkie, a cabin, put it on Airbnb and generate, really great returns. I've done this myself. I really like this model. I'm building another one right now. This is another Dustin Pool design. It's a little 3-room bunkie that I'm building. There's the 3D rendering. Here is the floor plan. I will show you this very briefly. It's got a deck that faces west. It's L-shaped here. And notice it has 3 doors. So this is the main door. You come in here, full bathroom here, closet here, dining, living room, kitchen area here. A door to the deck. So if you want a beer, you don't have to go very far. You don't have to go all the way around. Just come in here. And it's a 1-bedroom bunkie. And it's got a door to the outside as well. I really love doors. And this is a sweet little building. The smaller the buildings, the more creative you have to be. All right, that's enough of that. So that's pretty much my presentation, my part of the presentation. But I do want you to stick around because Steve is going to pick it up from here. I am going to pitch you guys on, some of you already are members, but I'm going to pitch you guys on something that is important to me. It's called Burning Rock Solutions. If you think, where did that name come from? Think about my last name, Firestone, Burning Rock. So I called it Burning Rock Solutions, and I started it last year as I got, I turned 68, and now I'm 69, I'm going to be 70 this year. The reason I did it was I wanted to create a private newsletter that went out to, clients of mine who could really benefit from it. And what I tried to do with this, these are long form reports, there's a joke that goes around that books are TV for smart people. So these are very long form reports, and they're pitched at kind of a third and fourth year university level. All right, so that's kind of what I'm pitching them at. So this is a private newsletter. It goes out once a month. There's 10 reports a year. Steve's going to talk a little bit more about what he and I are doing together on this. But the idea is not just to tell you one thing. Okay, this is how you finance this transaction. Or this is some of the conditions that maybe you should think about putting into this deal, and some of the things you should be concerned about. These are some of the animations maybe that you should think about for this property. This is the highest and best use. Yes, those are all important things. But what I'm trying to do with a series of reports is basically do a brain transplant from me to everybody who reads these things. So what I've asked people, and about 50 or 60 people have subscribed so far, and I'm hoping to get some more, is I wanted to get the message that I'm trying to describe to you guys today out to far more people, maybe thousands more. I'll bet you there are millions of people in Canada, the United States, maybe a billion people around the world who are not happy with their existing financial advice that they're getting. And so this is an opportunity for me to put together, before I get too old, pretty much everything I know. So over the period of the next few years, if you were to subscribe to it, there would be a brain transplant from me to you. Basically, that's my introduction, Steve, and I'm going to stop sharing now.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to my screen here quickly. Everyone sees my screen okay? Bruce, you see it? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so Bruce and I have been working together for a number of years now. It originally started off, I was president of my son's gymnastics club, and we were working on an expansion, and Bruce came in and we were talking real estate, but then we also talked about technology and his website. So I helped him revamp his website. But I've been working on Bruce, slowly chipping away at him for the past number of years to try and capture his teachings and capture what this movement that he's trying to create. And if you've been with Bruce for any length of time, you know that there's several movements that he believes in. Personal business for life, for every home a job, highest and best use. So these are principles that I believe that the next generation need to hear, and I believe that there's a tremendous amount of value in that. So what I've done before now, it was too hard to build this out, and it was too expensive and too complicated. Again, Bruce likes to keep things simple. So things have finally caught up now where we're able to create something that is relatively simple for Bruce to manage and to oversee, but then to have a bigger impact and to create this idea of a community of people like you, like me, who want to have real estate as part of their overall portfolio. Maybe you're doing other things, but you want to add real estate, you think it's important. So before I get into it, I have just a quick question, and I'm going to ask for a little bit of participation here. So I'm just going to ask you to answer in the chat A, B, C, or D. And answer A if you have 0 properties, you have not done any investments properties yet. Answer B if you have 1 to 2. Answer C if you have 3 to 5. And if you have more than 5, then you can answer D, and we'll all be super impressed. Okay, I'm seeing answers coming in. So I have a little bit of a theory on this, and I wanted to kind of confirm it for myself. Awesome. So seeing lots of Bs and a few Ds and some As. So fantastic. Like for me, I put myself in the A category because I've been focusing on business to generate the cash to invest, but I'm also anxious to get organized and to do this. So fantastic. Love the participations. That's terrific. Now, so that's great. So now we've all been here before. We've, you know, if any of you have worked with Bruce, you know that he's exceptionally organized. He can put these deals together and walk through a business case and pull something, you know, out of his file cabinet or out of his extremely organized filing system to kind of go through and, you know, walk through animations and animate properties and look at legal, do things. So there's a whole process that he follows that I've always been impressed with. Now, if you're anything like me, hopefully you're not, but me, I'm not so organized. So I get this material and then I have trouble filing it away, or I do file it away and then I forget where to get it. So when I'm trying to work on these things, I have problems. So can I get a you know, a hands up or a yes, me too, just so I don't feel all alone here, that trying to find and organize all this information is somewhat problematic when you're trying to put these deals together? Just a little something in the chat. Let me know you're still with me. Hell yes, unfortunately.
Steve, can I mention something?
Yeah.
So one of the things, thank you for saying that I'm well organized. So one of the things I spend a lot of time on, and I'm only half kidding when I say my real job description is file clerk. I have better files on my clients than my clients have on themselves. And if you guys want to build a portfolio, you have to have a personal balance sheet for that you can track everything. You have to have you have to digitize all the information. If you have a survey, you have plans, you have an environmental report, whatever it is, you've got a building permit, digitize everything, and don't just digitize it and then it has a long string of numbers as a file name. You'll never find that thing again. Right? You put down 22 Zokel Crescent, you know, survey 1992, right? And put it somewhere, and then back up your computer, okay, guys? Because when your computers go kapow, you lose all of that and know where to find that stuff. If you guys want to have any kind of a sanity life, you don't have to have a huge portfolio. You don't have to have 50 buildings or 300 buildings. You can have 10 and make $15, $20, $25,000 a month or more. You know, but you have to be organized, and I'm 100% with you on this, Steve.
Awesome. Well, and so the whole goal of what I've proposed to Bruce and what I'm about to show you and invite you to be part of this community that I'd like to build of people like us coming together, that, you know, sort of a learning community that buys into this and have the information be organized, readily available, and all Bruce's best stuff. So if you're excited about that, you know, I'd love to get into that. So what we've done is we've organized a few things. I've organized some of Bruce's content, and again, work in progress. So, you know, bear with me, and I'm hoping that you all here on this call will become part of this group of people that makes this amazing, not only for yourselves, because I want it to be what you need, but what other people that come along. We all have similar questions. We all have similar struggles that we're going through. So here's what we're going to do as sort of a special offer to you for being part of this conversation today. And I'm going to get into, you know, pricing and stuff, but first let me show you about some of the few things that you're going to get. So Bruce creates about monthly, but 10 a year. It takes 2 months off, 10 multimedia reports that we're going to sell to the public for around $19.97. But he also has trapped on, you know, YouTube, hidden links and whatnot, all sorts of amazing content, 40+ hours of content, which if we were to package up into a course, we could literally sell that for around $1,500. You're also going to get access to last year's report. So for people here on this call, as part of this webinar, we're going to give you access to last year's 10 reports, which is a $900 plus value, as well as some of this, you know, these things that we've been talking about, these specialized courses, the spreadsheets, the forms. Again, if all of these was put together and packaged up separately, we could sell it for around $3,000, because it is that important when you're trying to we've seen other people selling these packages for at least that amount. So total value just shy of $7,000 for the membership to Burning Rock Solutions. Because what I've proposed to Bruce is that we take this from a basic newsletter to a full-blown membership that has perks and creates a bit of a community. So I had to get to work on him a little bit and convince him to set up a couple of bonuses again for people on this call. So we're actually going to give you access to the full library. So if you've ever been to Bruce's website, all of his books, all of his electronic library, the ebooks are now going to be fully accessible to you within the portal as a member of Burning Rock Solutions. So if you've seen, there's a lot of handbooks, there's guidebooks, there's learning outcome novels, which are like absolute page turners, but they also learn some things and he teaches some concepts in there. That's going to be available to you as a special bonus. To put a price on and all that, if we package all the books up, you're looking around $1,297 value. Again, only for people that are going to be part of this webinar and see this. So that brings us up to around $8,100. Okay, and I know it's going to get cheesy that I keep coming through and summarizing it, but before you leave today, I want you to fully understand all the value that we're going to give you today as being part of Burning Rock Solutions. So second bonus that we're going to give you is the secrets to finding investors in cash. I mean, how many of you, if you could find that the right investor or find ways to find the cash to get that deal financed, would this be worth the membership alone to Burning Rock Solutions? So this is going to be a $297 value that's going to be in the portal. Third bonus that we're going to throw in there is how to properly finance and close deals. I mean, this one secret alone, if you could get this solved, financing a deal, saving the money in terms of interest, being able to show bankers the money, I mean, what would that be worth to you in terms of your investment portfolio, in terms of being able to get this going? Another $297. So if all you learned from the bonuses and what we've done so far, if all this your membership allowed you to do is finally, take an existing property that you have, like I've seen a lot of B's and D's out there, but turn them to get more profit out of them, to pay them off faster, would the membership be worth it? If you could, if you're in the A group, my fellow A's out there, if this finally gave you the kick in the butt that you needed to finally get moving, to have a group of people that are going through this with you, to put together your first deal, your next deal, again, would this be worth it? And if it could set you up for retirement so that you could live comfortably regardless, like the job market is in absolute turmoil these days, business, economy, your health, not having to worry about that. Bruce and I were talking about this, and Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I've seen you personally help people shorten their time to retirement by 5 to 10 years, reducing that timeline.
Yeah, I think that for most of the people on the call here today, they'll get there on their own. I mean, the stuff that we're teaching, some of it is very new, but still, it's not like putting a man or woman on Mars. That's really hard. But I can probably get people to their goal, whether it's $10,000 a month. I have one guy who wanted $900,000 a month in income from real estate. So it varies from, the minimum really is $10,000 a month, and the most anyone's ever set as a goal is $900,000. The $900,000 guy, we got him there in 5.5 years. Which was amazing. Fantastic. But what I'm saying to you is that, Steve, I think that 5 to 10 years, and in some cases, probably 15 years. I did it for myself in 15 years.
That's amazing. So I'll ask, the group again, like, if you could do one profitable deal, what's that worth to you? One profitable deal is worth 5K, 10K, 25K. I mean, how much would you pay right now today to learn, how to find investors in cash, how to properly finance and close a deal? And then how many deals you actually need to comfortably retire? Do I need 8? Do I need 10, 12? Do I need 20? Do I need 300? These are some of the things that you're going to learn as part of Bruce's teachings and as part of the Burning Rock Solutions community. And then having a proven approach, you can go out and make mistakes on your own, right? We've all done it, but the best way to learn is to learn from other people's mistakes. So if Bruce has seen so much and done so much, that there's a lot of costly mistakes that can be. And again, if you have investments, I'm sure you have horror stories, right? I'm sure you have horror stories of worth tens of thousands of dollars. So to avoid that, how much is that worth? Probably people on this webinar right now that have invested big bucks in other training programs, right? And if you care to share that yes, guilty, I know I have, but people are pay access to mastermind groups and to get the right people and right resources to this kind of training. And the people that you'll see as part of this have already lived it and know Bruce's stuff is miles above what's being taught out there. So the last big bonus that I've got for you here is that, so you're going to have access to a member portal where all the information is now neatly organized. You can get it when you need it, take it with you on the go, come back to it, refer to it. There's also a private members group called the ROI group, which you're going to get access to and membership in. There's a private Facebook group where you can communicate with other people, share deals, look at properties to invest in. And again, it's all about community, right? This is one of the big drivers for me in this is to try and bring together people we're all trying to do the same thing. This community of like-minded entrepreneurs, because as much as Bruce knows, as much as you know, we're only one part of the equation. It's a big world. There's lots of things going on out there. So having a community allows other ideas to flow, other deals to be made, other relationships to be made. So we're hopeful you'll join us and be part of that community. Bruce has mentioned before earlier in this talk that he works with top-notch professionals. He knows a bunch, but he also knows how to validate them. So if you're trying to evaluate somebody, if you need a deal done quick, he can put you in touch with people who will help you get deals done. And then but also how to learn how to, vet your own people and vet your own team. So for all of that, all these bonuses, all these things we're doing, it's hard to put a price on it because I don't know how much value that's going to bring to you and what it can create. Again, I talk a lot about community. To me and to Bruce, this is a worldwide movement, right? We're trying to change things. One gig, one side hustle, one personal business for life, one home, one job, one real estate investment portfolio, one village, one town, one city, one nation, one story at a time. So let's change your story. Let's change our stories together, and be part of this community. So to summarize all the things that you're going to be getting, you get the 10 multimedia reports, which is part of Bruce's original intention. We're going to be adding in tons of hours of content, categorized and summarized for you. You're going to get access to last year's reports, which is already another $900 value. You get the specialized courses, you get all the bonuses, the entire library, secrets to finding investors in cash, how to finance and close deals, and access to the group. So we're now over $9,000 worth of value that we're putting into this membership. So you can see why, even if we charge $5,000 a year for membership to be part of this group, it'd be worth it. The public, they're going to be getting this for around $19.97. But for you being part of this, again, for the 28 people that are still with us, we're going to give you an added bonus to be part of this. And this one here, I had to talk to Bruce about this. It's a special bonus that we had to shut down. We had to close off. Bruce is always, very giving of his time, but he's got so many big projects going on. He can only have a limited number of one-on-one time with people. But what we're going to do as part of the special bonus for you, for the people on this call, is we're going to offer 2 one-hour private Zoom calls with Bruce, where he will personally go through your deal with you. He'll walk through step by step all the fine points and help refine your deal that you're trying to make happen. Or if you just need coaching and advice and where to go and who to meet and what to do, however you want to structure your calls. But a deal review is something that if you haven't gone through it already, it's extremely powerful. You're going to get 2 of those 1-hour calls. Now, because his time is more and more compressed, he's had to raise his rates. So just the value of this alone is $49.97 to be able to book these calls with Bruce and have him come in. I mean, he just had somebody fly him to Curacao for to go and finance a bunch of deals and work through all of the land deals and everything else, which is an awesome story, which we'll get to at another date. But this we can only offer to the first 50 people who join up. And I'm going to send you the link. You'll see it in a minute. But the first 50 people who jump on this link, yes, Bruce.
Sorry to interrupt you. You know, there's 28 folks who stuck with us. Would you offer this to friends of theirs too until we get to 50, or is this just for the 28 who stuck with us to the end?
So we've limited it to 50 people because, again, your time. But if you have friends, you want to send them this link, go ahead and send them this link. They'll trust me, they'll thank you for it. So obviously we have enough. If everybody went to get the link today and signed up today, we can accommodate you, which is awesome. But if you have a friend that is missing this webinar, maybe signed up for it, didn't show up or couldn't make it, definitely send them this link on the way out.
Thanks, Steve.
So no problem. So, I mean, if you just did one deal in the next 12 months, so think of the next 12 months here, you're planning on doing just one deal, right? And 2 calls with Prof. Bruce helped you refine the financials and the deal and the points and add these animations that we talk about. I mean, do you think you could save at least the cost of your membership on the purchase price that you're going to buy? Do you think that you're going to avoid some costly mistakes? Do you think you'd be able to design, you know, a model for the future deals that you can put in place to keep going and get to that retirement goal, right? And get there 5 to 10 years sooner than you would otherwise on your own. Again, smart people on the call, you're doing it already, but what if you get there and shorten the time to get to that retirement goal? Okay, so just again, real quick, you get all these things. First 50 people to register, we're now well over $14,000 worth of value. Okay, so here's the link for those of you who want to grab that link and go now. It's burningrocksolutions.com/go, and today we're making it available to you for $895. Taxes in, we pay the taxes. You get this offer today. So this, again, just if you think of everything that we talked about, all the value that we're giving, you basically have 2 choices, right? So for those of you who are going to that link and you come back and you know, just drop a line maybe in the chat to say that I'm in, and if you're going to join us as part of this community. But for those of you who are still maybe on the fence, you ultimately have 2 choices. First option, you could do nothing. You could just say, okay, well, this is kind of cool. You could try and do it on your own. You could try and keep doing what you've been doing. But I'm going to encourage you to maybe consider the second option. And that's to make a small investment today compared to all the value that we're giving you as part of this. Just give this a shot. Because if it works, awesome. If not, we're going to give you your money back within, like, a full refund within 30 days. And yes, Bruce.
Sorry, I wasn't clear on this either when you did the slides, Steve, these parts anyway. Chris Vaudry is asking, is it a one-time payment? Is it for a year? Is it what is the $895?
So the $895 is an annual membership fee. So you're going to get 12 months access to the portal, the library, your reports, all these different things, and 2 calls per year with Bruce. Does that answer the question?
I think so.
Make sense? Okay. And so the other thing that I've asked Bruce to do is to just offer an absolutely wild guarantee. Because again, we want you to take part of it. We want your feedback. I'd like your feedback to try and make this the portal itself and the organization of the information just really sing and be helpful to you. So one, we've given the 30-day money back guarantee, no questions asked. If after 30 days you don't like it, that's not for you, just ask for the money back. We'll part as friends, and we'll send that right back to you. But we're also going to allow you to keep these bonuses. And this gets a little crazy. So you're going to be able to stay on the private Facebook group. We're still going to give you access to the private member portal that I'm creating and that I've put together, where we're still going to have free resources in real estate for real estate investors and entrepreneurs, because we want to help you. We want to be there. So there will be some free resources. You just might miss out on some of the really juicy stuff. And again, this took a little bit of convincing, but we're going to give you access to Bruce's free ebook library, yours to keep, just for trying this out and trying Burning Rock Solutions. So that link again is burningrocksolutions.com/go. And there's a quick and easy link that gets you instant access. You can pay your fee there, and then you'll get an email that will give you access to a portal where you have the information. And then we will be getting started, and we'll be back at you with the information. And oh yes, I forgot, we're even going to give you and allow you to keep last year's reports from Bruce for free. So that's a $900 value just for coming and joining today. So really, I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. Don't take Bruce's word for it. These are people that have actually worked with Bruce. Peter Haderwitz is an engineer, entrepreneur, and adventurer. He's an Ottawa 40 under 40 recipient. He says, I'm on track to reach my goals of twin goals, $1,000 a day in passive income and a 2-hour work week before I turn 35, thanks to Burning Rock Solutions, real estate, investment, and biz methods. So, the right model and being able to fearlessly implement it is really because of Bruce and because of what he's created. Annie on the go says, I'm reading and watching. That's all I'm doing is I'm reading and watching and listening to these days is Burning Rock Solutions. And Chris Long says, being an entrepreneur is never easy. A young entrepreneur and a single parent isn't easy. A young entrepreneur, single parent running 2 growing companies isn't easy. Life's not easy, right? So what makes life valuable is the ups and downs, the experiences that shape who you are and who you will grow into. And after that, the lessons you leave behind plus the impact you have on people around you. So having Burning Rock Solutions, having Prof. Bruce as a resource has helped Chris shape him into the entrepreneur and adult that he's now become. Wouldn't change it for the world. So again, I invite you guys to be part of this. Change your story. Let's change the story together. And I'd love, we'll wrap this up again, burningrocksolutions.com/go. If you have any other questions, you still have questions, Bruce is always available. Just drop him a line at bruce@brucemfirestone.com. Be sure to include your name and information and that you were on this call, and he'll be happy to answer your questions. So Bruce, thanks for allowing me to join and to kind of create this and test this out. I hope you'll all join me as being part of that group.
Well, I think that was a really good first time presentation, Steve. That's not easy to do. One of the things I would like to talk just a little bit about, we got another couple of minutes and then we'll let you guys go. Again, thank you for sticking with us. I hope everybody is going to be well throughout this pandemic, which looks like it's going to be with us yet for a bit of more time. But I wanted just to mention that as part of the books that I've written, there's lots of things I've written that are spot on real estate, business model illustrations, why and why not to invest in real estate. I mean, I've got lots of books on real estate, which I think will help you. And but I also wrote some other things, one on sports and entertainment, which was Don't Back Down, the real story of the founding of the Ottawa Senators and why big leagues matter. And there are 4 themes in that book. You'll get that too, by the way. There are 4 themes, even if you're not interested in sports. But obviously it's the Sens, it's the NHL, but there's a ton of real estate in it as well, which you might find interesting. And then there's the fourth theme, which is my story, which you heard a bit of today, which I hope wasn't too bad. So in addition to that, I've written a few learning outcome novels. And you might ask yourself, what the heck is a learning outcome novel? I think I created this genre. So what I like to do, because I only have one addiction, and that is to writing. You know, I'm not addicted to alcohol or drugs, but I like writing. I've been writing these learning outcome novels now for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And what I've tried to do is I've tried to tell some real estate stories and some business stories, but wrapped up in a novel, you know, with characters that I like and admire. And the books that I've written, the learning outcome novels, they're not for everybody. You know, there's lots of people who can write about, gang warfare and, drug trades and CIA operatives and, terrorists and stuff like that. That's not what I wanted to write about. I wanted to write about people like us building great companies in tech, in real estate, et cetera. So I don't know, you might be interested. Tens of thousands of people have read them over the years, and you'll have access to them. There are not very many of them. I'm working on another one now, which might be my last, Steve. But, they are directed to people who are trying to engender positive outcomes. And that's what we're really trying to do here with Burning Rock Solutions. Spread the gospel, and let's see if we can help maybe hundreds, if not thousands or tens of thousands of people, prepare to provide for themselves and their families for 3 generations. The Europeans have been doing this for hundreds of years. The rich families, they all own real estate. And we ought to be doing something like that too. So that's it. I want to thank everybody again. Boy, you stuck with us 1 hour and 27 minutes. Steve, you were great. Thank you, everybody. See you later.
Thanks, Bruce.